Just like a good book, every good plan should have a beginning, middle, and an end. While it is true that our work to improve student achievement never really ends, progress can and should be measured with new chapters or initiatives. As these ideas and improvements are developed and implemented, the storyline continues. The Sioux Falls School District's story and future can be told in its strategic plan. This plan began with the design phase in the fall of 2015 and moved into the implementation phase in early 2016. The district's strategic plan includes 4 priority areas: student outcomes, school climate and culture, staff, and community engagement. The plan serves as a comprehensive framework for improving these and other areas so the district can deliver on its mission of educating and preparing each student to succeed in a changing world.
I feel very good about where we're at. I think we have some very clearly stated goals.
The Sioux Falls School District has long been a mission-driven and goal-driven organization. This plan is an ongoing investment in students and staff. While the work will take us through the next 5 years, some work is already underway, with many more initiatives slated for the future.
Strategic plan gives us that opportunity for every person in the community or anybody that wants to get on our website and see is going to know where we're at and where we're headed. And that's what this does is really guide our effort and guide our work.
In the area of student outcomes, realizing that sooner is better, the district took the leap to support students with the greatest needs by offering Summer Climb at 3 elementary schools during the summer of 2016. Nearly 200 students from Hayward, Hawthorne, and Laura B. Anderson Elementaries spent 8 weeks in the classroom, extending their focus on math and reading skills at a crucial time when they may have otherwise experienced summer slide. Instead, these students were engaged in deliberate lessons and activities to stimulate their brains and keep them excited about learning. More students will benefit this summer.
We're going to increase enrollment to 30 students per class. We were shooting for 25 students per class last year. We've upped that to 30, and so we'll have even more kids involved.
The MAP test, or Measure of Academic Progress, was the pre- and post-test used to track those students' progress. That tool continues to be in the pilot phase.
It's unique in that it is a computer adaptive test, so when a student sits down to take the test, it starts out assuming, okay, if you're a second grader, this is what you should know. Kid gets a couple of questions wrong, it realizes, oh, that's not really where you're at, and it starts to shift down. That helps us really understand where kids are with their learning.
The immediate feedback informs instruction. That means teachers can identify skill deficit areas and deliver what each student needs sooner. All 5th grade students are being assessed this year with the MAP in the areas of math, reading, and science. Any further use at the elementary schools will be considered as part of the FY18 budget. Graduation rates are getting a closer look too, and not just by the high schools. All grade levels realize their role in a student's successful completion.
When we talk about graduation and graduation rates, we're also talking about something that's really important to our community, and that's workforce development.
Principals, counselors, and teachers at the high schools are identifying students at risk of not graduating and meeting with those students one-on-one. This concerted effort looks different at each high school, but the goal is the same: to increase the number of students who can proudly walk across the stage and say they earned their diploma.
I really believe that that individual approach, those weekly meetings in each of our high schools, will manifest itself in improved graduation rates without lowering the expectations that we have for credit completion.
In the area of school climate and culture, we can't teach if students aren't there to learn. Attendance is one of the focus areas in this section of the strategic plan. A public service campaign was launched, and consistent messaging appears throughout schools and in written and video communications to increase awareness of the importance of school attendance. A study committee is meeting to better understand the root causes of attendance challenges.
What can we do to intervene for a student who is having attendance problems? So that committee is looking at researched, evidence-based practices to increase individual students' attendance, and we're putting it into a pyramid of tiers so that schools, parents, and students can work together to put together a plan that will support an individual student in whatever the root cause of their individual attendance issue is.
A tiered plan specific to elementary, middle, and high school levels was developed, recognizing that the reasons for absence at these levels differs greatly.
We have to be able to get to know each student, and we have to figure out what their individual situation and circumstances is that's creating a barrier for them.
Discussions are underway with community partners to address chronically truant students, including but not limited to medical providers, mental health professionals, law enforcement, state's attorney's office, and the court system. We all want to work together to improve student attendance. At our elementary schools, supports were needed for students struggling with behavior challenges.
Just as students have deficits in learning to read or in learning to write, so there are students who have deficits in understanding how to socially relate and regulate themselves.
The Tier 2 pilot began in August of 2014 at Annie Sullivan and Terry Redland elementary schools. The objective is direct instruction in a safe school environment for students who need support developing social and emotional skills, such as how to de-escalate behaviors. In the fall of 2016, Tier 2 rooms were added at 4 elementary schools, Hawthorne, Hayward, Cleveland, and Garfield, due to increased amounts and severity of behaviors. In addition, behavior facilitators were added at 6 elementary Tier 2 programs to assist and support consistent interventions for students.
Those schools have done the Boys Town Well-Managed Classroom training as a whole staff. They've all done crisis prevention intervention training in those Tier 2 rooms.
In the area of creating a more culturally diverse workforce, the district is working with the University of South Dakota to provide staff development that builds the capacity for greater acceptance and understanding of students and staff from backgrounds that differ from our own.
It does stimulate your thoughts to think about who you are and your background, and how does that background relate to all of the diversity we have in our district.
Further, USD has committed to helping the Sioux Falls School District design a pipeline program to introduce teaching as a profession to diverse students so we can systemically encourage students to consider the rewards of a career in education.
So we've gone out to some of the schools and met with individual groups of students at each one of the schools and talked to them about education and outstanding kids that are, a lot of them in accelerated classes, AP classes, things like that, are doing great things, but they definitely have an interest in teaching. So we're going to continue to foster that.
This initiative aims at having our teaching staff be more reflective of the students we serve, and it is an investment in our increasingly diverse K-12 enrollment and the greater community.
We're working with some individuals from the University of South Dakota who have piloted some of these classes and programs in other states, and so they're going to work with us to potentially do that. But right now, on the beginning phases, it's just to get out and talk to those students and then have continual meetings and then track them through college so that we can encourage them to come back to the Sioux Falls School District and be teachers here in areas that we have need.
Continuing in the priority area of district staff, comments and conversations during focus groups held in the spring of 2016 had the district evaluating the requirements of the K-5 elementary teachers' instructional day. Staff indicated concern for a lack of lesson planning time and more initiatives that add to the daily to-do list.
What are some of the concerns? What are the things that we can do better?
Additional feedback was solicited during a series of focus groups in December, with recommendations still to come.
You hear a lot of new things that you just wouldn't have thought of otherwise unless you had asked.
In that same vein, more focus groups are scheduled for 2017, and this leads us to our fourth priority area of community engagement. Goals in this area focus on developing a shared responsibility for student success, shared between staff, parents, and the community. In this area, it's all about connecting with the stakeholders we serve and operating transparently.
We are the Sioux Falls Public Schools. We exist because Sioux Falls exists. And so really our goal in community engagement is to make sure that we are serving the community that we are hired and paid to serve.
Real concern is still a few years away, but Superintendent Maher has begun to plant the seeds in our community about growing enrollments. This fall, he told staff at the general session and supporters at the Education Foundation breakfast that existing space in our schools will not be sufficient. While this fact does not necessarily mean a new school is on the horizon, it does require the district to analyze current classroom usage and determine if educational delivery will result in more or less space in the future.
After we listen and after we meet, we always have to determine what's actionable. What action can we take based on that voice that we've just listened to?
Students, staff, and parents were surveyed on their preferences for the school calendar, and the surveying will not stop on that topic. There is still much work to do, so in order for the strategic plan to be successful, all stakeholders will have an opportunity to provide feedback and input.
And that's really what we're after here, is being responsive to the community that we serve, not losing sight of the fact that we do serve, and then using that information to take action so that our kids benefit and our community benefits.
This is the future of the Sioux Falls Public Schools. We need all of Sioux Falls to help us write these chapters and carry out these initiatives so our story gets better and better every year.